Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel for the long overdue update on my Sierra Sapphire Cosworth. First of all, I want to say I've been absolutely blown away by the response to that first initial video on the Sierra Cosworth, where I bought it and collected it from Scotland and drove it all the way down here to Cornwall. Over 125,000 of you have taken the time to watch that video. I'm so grateful. So thanks to those that have watched, those that have liked, those that have left a comment. I've tried to come back to you all, and everyone who's subscribed. I really do appreciate it. Restoring cars, it takes a long time. So again, thanks for your patience whilst you've been waiting for me to upload this video, which is going to be a bit of a log really on the first phase of my Sierra Sapphire restoration. So what have I been up to? Well, firstly, shortly after buying the car, I took it along to the historic vehicle gathering at Powderham Castle. I wanted to show the car pre-restoration, and I plan to return this year in July with the car when it's all done. I stuck a notice in the car's window explaining how I had just bought it and driven the car from Scotland and to follow the restoration here on the channel. So thanks to anyone who's watching now who saw the car at the show last year. It will be back this year, 2023, in July at Powderham Castle. Or at least, I hope it will. So, my initial plan with the Sierra Cosworth was to take it along to my local garage, the Torpoint MOT, to address that blue smoke that the car was producing under acceleration, particularly after a bit of overrun. Here, take a look at Lawrence giving the car a bit of a rev. And here's a couple of plumes of smoke that were produced by the car on the way to the garage. All I wanted doing was maybe the valve stem oil seals, just to cure that blue smoke. You see, I was quite happy to drive the car in the condition that it was, so long as the engine was sound. But we decided to drop the engine out of the car to take a good look at it. And whilst the car was on the ramp, well, I took a quick look underneath. And it was looking, well, tired at best and fairly rusty at worst. The rear chassis legs, they're definitely going to need some attention. Anyway, back to the engine, which by now had been dropped out of the car so that we could take a decent look at it to sort the oil leaks, which looked like they've been there for quite a while, and to address whatever it was that was knocking on the bottom of the car. There was this terrible noise, this knock, 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 coming from underneath the car. Anyway, that turned out to be a worn universal joint on the transfer box shaft, meaning that the shaft itself was knocking against the underside of the car. And it's from that point that things really escalated. And I subsequently learned what many of you watching would have told me, and that is, there ain't no such thing as a cheap Cosworth. Right now, as I sit here, my car is in, 12 locations across the UK? I've gone so much further than I originally planned. Remember this? So the big question, how much did I pay for this 31-year-old, bit rusty Ford Sierra Sapphire Cosworth? And I paid, prices are mad at the moment. I never really thought that I'd get one. I paid £15,750 for the car. I certainly think I got some money on it, but I think for about 22,000 all in, we should have a very good car. And he looks so smug, oblivious to what was about to happen. With the engine out, well, we could see a few things. We could see that the source of the oil leak was just a damaged oil switch, which was a tenner off eBay? And that's where the cheap repairs started and stopped. Further investigation into the engine, and we could see some marks here on the top of the pistons, a bit of wear and evidence the car had been, over fueling and had scorched the bores. So I decided on a full engine rebuild, and the engine was transported over to Paul Inch Engineering Services in Plymouth, who are absolutely fantastic. They are brilliant at what they do. They actually rebuilt my Mark IV Escort XR3i Cabriolet engine some 4 or 5 years ago. Now with the turbo off the car, we'll have a decent look at that too. Here it is then, the Garrett turbo off the Ford Sierra Sapphire Cosworth. And well, whilst this was doing pretty well on the drive back from Scotland, we do have that exhaust smoke problem, which I know is probably to do with the engine. But to be honest, we're doing everything else on this car, and there is a little bit of play here inside the turbo. Let me show you the bearings. Look, put it on the bench there. Let's have a look. So the bearings there, I hope you can see that on the camera. You can see there's a bit of play there in the turbo. So this one, well, it's going off to Turbo Technics. They do a great service. They come and collect it from your house. They strip it down, they inspect the turbo, and they'll let me know what's wrong with it, whether it needs a repair or whether it needs a full refurbishment. And well, with this car, it's probably going to need a full refurbishment, but whatever it needs. So, going to get this packaged up now. In fact, I'll show you a picture of it packaged now. There you go. And get it sent off, and let's see what they say. I'll give you an update in a minute. And with the engine, with Paul Inch Engineering Services, and the turbo with Turbo Technics, I decided to move the car itself to MK Body Shop in Plymouth to paint the engine bay, and with the gearbox being off the car, to address the condition of the underside of the shell. At this point in the restoration, well, whilst I was going a little further than I'd originally planned to as part of phase 1, my plan was to have the engine rebuilt, have the engine bay painted, have the underside of the car tidied up, then put back together, and we'll drive it. I could always get the rest of the body painted at some point in the future. So with the car safely at MK Body Shop, I popped in for a project meeting, really just to confirm it was the engine bay and the underside of the car that I wanted doing. I knew the car would need sills, and when we removed the side skirts, it became even more apparent. The thing is, just over a decade ago, well, these Sapphire Cosworths were not very valuable, so plating a sill to pass an MOT was commonplace. I could also see the bottoms of the front wings needed replacing. And then Matt of MK Body Shop asked me the question. He asked, so how far do you want to go? Because if you're already painting the engine bay, the underside of the car, if you're doing the sills and the bottoms of the front wings, you just as well paint the rest of it. And that was it. That evening I came home, I went online and I ordered outer, centre and inner sills from Express Steel Panels. The quality of those panels, by the way, was absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend them. The car was then stripped, braced and then sent to Pro 4M Engineering for a week's worth of welding and fabrication work. Here, take a look at this. Some repairs were made to the floor, the sills were completely chopped out and new panels put in replacing them, and the rear arches, which were supplied with the car, were fitted. During the week's welding, well, Turbo Technics had come back to me and confirmed what we're all thinking. A full rebuild required on my turbo. And because it wasn't too much more to have the internals built as a stage 1 hybrid, well, that's what's being done. As many of you will know, I want to take this car back to as close a standard build as I can, but I do have a plan, and that's why I'm having the turbo modified slightly. So please do stay tuned to these videos to find out exactly how the car's going to turn out. Now, in other news, another day and another job on my Sierra Cosworth. Today I'm driving my Rover 75 Tourer, which is in effect my van. It's my daily car and it's a support vehicle that keeps all of the collection going. It's a brilliant car with loads of space in the boot, and that's just as well because today's cargo is 9 lattice Cosworth alloy wheels. Now my car, it came with those lovely 17-inch softline wheels. They're very pretty, but they're not the original wheels. I was pleased that the car was supplied with 5 original wheels, 4 of them that are in the boot. In fact, I'll show you a picture of them now. They're not in great condition, as you'll see there. And a 5th, of course, is in the boot of the Sierra Cosworth. But I've got quite a few lattice wheels. I've been collecting them over the years. I think I've got 15 in total. So I popped up to a garage that I have and grabbed out of there a set of 5 wheels that also would benefit from refurbishment. So I'm taking 9 in today, plus the one that's there, that's 10 in total, and we'll pick the best 5 wheels to get refurbished and to go into my car. Now, interestingly, on the set of wheels that was supplied with the car, the set of lattice wheels that was supplied with the car, we've got some dates that don't match. We've got a couple of wheels that were manufactured in 1990. Here's a date stamp for you. And we've got a couple of wheels that were manufactured in 88. So non-matching wheels, it's not a big deal, but if we're doing the car and doing it right, we just as well have matching wheels. So the other 5 that I picked up from the garage just now, well, they're 1988 wheels. So we'll probably get those refurbished and have them put onto my Sierra Cosworth. So at least we've got all matching wheels, 1988 15-inch lattice alloy wheels. So taking all these to MK Body Shop. Also in the boot, I've got the prop shaft that needs to go in for powder coating, and also the transfer box shaft, which has now got that new UJ fitted to it. The universal joint has been swapped, and well, look at this, no play at all now. It's a really good fix, and the first one that hasn't been that expensive on this car. In fact, it's made me realise that the UJ at the other end of the transfer box shaft, well actually that one's got a bit of play in it too, so we'll probably get that one swapped before the shaft goes back into the car. And also, when I was up at the garage, well, I found two original front fog lamps for the Ford Sierra. There you go. I'll put a picture of them on the screen now. As you'll know, the one that's in the car currently, well, that one's cracked. Here's a picture of that one. There you go. So those two will do very nicely indeed. And I found a couple of Corello headlights. We'll know at the moment the headlights in the car actually don't match. One's Corello, one might be Lucas, I think. So we'll make sure we've got a matching set of Corellos on this car. So I've found two in my garage. There's one in the car, and I've got two in the boot of a Ford Sierra Estate 4x4, a donor car that I've got. So out of the 6 headlights, or the 3 pairs of headlights, I'll make 2 good ones to go back into the car. So off to MK Body Shop to unload all of this and to pick up the rear differential. I've already got the front differential at home, but MK Body Shop have removed the rear diff for me. Both the diffs have got oil leaks. Here, I'll show you a picture now. So they need to go in and be refurbished, just like everything else. And it won't be cheap because nothing on this car is. But as everyone keeps telling me, it'll be worth it. So stay tuned to this video and let's see how far we get. As I mentioned there, I managed to source some universal joints for the transfer box shafts. A big shout out to Brookwells of Plymouth, who are actually a Land Rover specialist, as they measured up the UJ in the shaft and had 2 on the shelf which fitted perfectly, so no more knocking on the underside of the car. Now, I mentioned earlier that my car is all over the place at the moment, so where is it? Well, the body is at Pro 4M Engineering, having the welding finished. Various parts, panels and the wheels, they're at MK Body Shop. The bolts, nuts, screws and other parts have been sent off for zinc plating, and lots of the metal parts from under the car are with the powder coater. Both differentials are with Colebrook transmission. The turbo is with Turbo Technics. The engine is now with Alvin Powell Motorsport. I'll tell you all about that in the next video. It's very exciting. Paul Lynch Engineering still have my rocker cover because it's being refurbished, having been alley welded because I have got rid of that oil catcher. Now, I know lots of you have advised me in the comments to keep the oil catcher, but as I've said, I've got a plan, so stay tuned to these videos to find out. The gearbox and the exhaust are with Torpoint MOT. I have stored lots of the engine parts in the boot of an old Mondeo which I have, which used to be my dad's. And the interior, well, that's here with me. That's 11 locations, plus this headlining, which is looking a bit tired, a bit ropey. That's being collected next week and is off to CJM Upholstery for a nice refresh. Goodness knows if I'm ever going to get this car back together. I'm bound to lose some bits. Plus, I need to buy some bits. I still need brake plates, I need bushes, I need engine mounts, and I need a new bulkhead panel because mine is rotten. So that's the first update on the restoration of my Sierra Cosworth. In the next video, which will be ready in 3 or 4 weeks' time, well, we should have the turbo back. We should have a number of other parts back that will be refurbished and ready to go back onto the car. I'll take you along to see the car being painted, and we'll go and see Alvin Powell Motorsport to see the engine being rebuilt. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video, enjoyed seeing all the work that's gone on the car so far. I promise you that I will continue to share everything that I go through, the good, the bad and the ugly when it comes to this restoration. So stay tuned to all of that until we see the car finished, and then I'll tell you how much all of this has cost me. Thank you so much for watching. Please do drop me a comment if you've got an opinion or some advice on what's going on with the restoration. I'd love to hear from you, and I try to get back to as many of you as I can. If you've enjoyed the video, a thumbs up and do subscribe. It really helps the channel. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your patience when it comes to my Cosworth build, and I hope to see you again here on the channel very soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.